Turf today. Get up and brush off the dew on that. Turf today. Turf today. Turf today. Cut it and roll that dew on that. Turf today. Turf today. Turf today. Set up, they about to come through on that. Turf today. Turf today. Turf today. Get up. Turf today. Get up. Turf today. Let's get out the way. Here comes first play. Let's maintain that turf today.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Turf Today, recorded on the Superintendent Network and proudly sponsored by Toro. I'm your host, Adam Kershane, alongside Brian Laurent, and we're excited to bring you another great conversation today from the world of golf course maintenance. We head out to one of the most iconic clubs in the Midwest, Crooked Stick Golf Club, to chat with Director of Grounds Jake Gargasz. Jake takes us through his recent greens rebuild at Crooked Stick, what it takes to manage a Pete Dye design, and leadership lessons he's picked up throughout his career. Whether you're pushing mowers or planning a renovation on your own, this is an episode you will not want to miss. Let's get into this. When selecting golf course maintenance equipment, reliability is essential. That's why Toro products are the choice of golf courses around the world. They know they can count on Toro mowers, utility vehicles, and more to work. They also know they can rely on Toro for the innovations and engineering that blend high productivity with a beautiful course appearance. For products that get the job done, visit toro.com/golf. Always solving, always evolving.
Hey, Jake.
Hey, how's it going?
Jake, what's going on, brother?
Great. How are you?
Not too bad. We are just getting all set up here. Me and Brian were doing all our technical fun stuff before getting you on, so it was perfect. Perfect timing.
Yeah.
What's new?
Dog days of summer.
Days of summer. We're into
Yeah.
it.
Surviving out there with all the new turf, all that
Yeah,
fun
I mean
stuff.
we've got some challenges, but to be expected. We're just trying to figure it out. It's one of those you know basically what to do, but once you get into the thick of it, there's a lot of adjustments that need to be made. So that's pretty much where we're at right now, is just trying to figure out the balance between playability and health. So
You guys must have
yeah.
something big coming up soon.
Uh, what is it? The 2028 Senior Open is the only thing that we got on the books right now. So thankfully, it's a couple years away, so we can figure everything out.
Yeah, it's nice to have some time. But you guys not do any big tournaments of the course during the year, or a big member guest, or club championship, or something like that?
Well, that we're just opening after basically being closed for a year. So we've been open since June 6th, and
Fresh.
we haven't had guest play yet. That starts next Tuesday, so that'll be interesting. And then, we've got club championships and things like that, but they basically canceled everything this year, just knowing that turf's going to be a little tender. They don't want to put too much stress on it, which is great from our end. So, we're trying to. I mean, literally, we are dealing with infants. So, we're just trying to baby them through the year, get to the point where we can airify and smooth them out a little bit more and make them a little bit better. And, hopefully that the weather cooperates so we can get there.
For those that may not be aware of who you are, go ahead and just give us a little brief introduction of yourself.
Jake Gargasz, I'm the director of grounds at Crooked Stick Golf Club in Carmel, Indiana. Been doing something with a golf course since I was 14. And, so I'm 46 now, and it's a couple years under my belt as far as, experiencing a lot of different things on a golf course. So it's been a lot of different places, and I can say that Crooked Stick is the longest I've been ever been at one golf course, but then also the longest I've ever lived in one place in my entire life. So this is definitely home.
And take us back to those first couple of years, 14, 15 years old, working on the course. Any good memories?
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to be able to drive a golf or like drive a gator. I thought those were cool. So, we lived on a golf course. I could ride my bike to the maintenance facility. At the time, the pro was the superintendent, so he was, hey, the door's open, just go work when you can, let me know your hours. I think I was making 425. It was just fun, it was something different. I got to do night watering, which, at 14, 15 years old, it was just cool to be out at 1 a.m. and actually be allowed to, your parents typically aren't going to let you go out and drive around a golf course in the middle of the night, unless they have an excuse like watering the course. So, but yeah, I mean, those were fun times. That's probably what got me hooked too, though.
Where'd you grow up, Jake? Where was your first experience on a
So
course?
that was Portland Country Club. It was in Portland, Indiana, a little podunk town in the middle of nowhere. I think there were more gravel roads than there were paved. But my parents moved me from Portland to Chardon, Ohio, and that's kind of where it all really started to begin. And met Mike Mikowski was the superintendent at Chardon Lakes Golf Club that I worked at the time, and he was kind of the one that helped spur me on to say like, hey, you could do this for a living. And at 16 years old, it was like, well, I kind of like doing this, so maybe that is the route to go. And it just so happened down the road was Sand Ridge Golf Club was being built. John Zimmer's, fresh out of congressional, and Jim Rooney. And, I went in there as a 16, 17-year-old kid and, was basically the lead grunt and got all the bad jobs, but I loved it. So, spent 2 summers there, went to ATI there in Worcester. And, the one advice that John gave me was, go work for this Latshaw guy, this Paul Latshaw guy that's at Marion. And I was like, I don't know who he is, but if John's telling me, then that makes a lot of sense. Then let's go. And, you know, come what was it, maybe March, called up those guys and said, well, Paul took the job at Oak Hill. I was like, well, I don't know where Oak Hill's at, but I guess that's where I'm going because that's where John told me to go. I was just a dumb kid. I didn't know any better and just knew that, John was going to steer me wrong. And so I went to Oak Hill. And then we did what was that? I think I was there, what, 5 years? And then we finished up with the PGA Championship. And yeah, I can just remember looking around that course and saying, man, there's going to be a lot of work to put it back together. And, you know, a week later, Paul comes over and says, hey, I accepted the job at Muirfield. I said, crap, where's that? And, again, just a dumb kid, didn't know any better, just wanted to work, learn as much as I could. But he asked me to come with him to Muirfield. And, 2 weeks later, I was in a moving truck and, on my way to Muirfield. So,
As an Ohio kid, you didn't know Muirfield?
I mean, honestly, like, I was into golf, but I wasn't into golf. Like it was, I just didn't really comprehend at that time, what opportunities were out there. I really liked the tournament. I liked doing the PGA. That was a lot of fun. The build out, the how complex everything was, how much we had to coordinate. So going to Muirfield, it was like, oh, well, we get to do this every year. And after about 7 of them, I said, well, got another one coming, So, it's its own beast. But I look back on, all those tournaments. What was that? 7 tournaments in 7 years, or 8 tournaments in 7 years. Because the Memorial Tournament was what, 6 months apart from the PGA. And we had some work to do at Muirfield to get it ready for that first tournament that we did, but we pulled it together. And every year we got a little bit better, and Mother Nature every year decided to basically set us back every tournament because we get a ton of rain or whatever. So
You didn't get around to putting flowers on Leather Lips' grave, then did you? Did you guys try everything?
every year, my mom's friend from high school would come down and visit me, and every year she'd bring me a bottle of whiskey in a bag of soil and say, this is to help, with the curse, and it never worked. So we constantly would get rain or flood, or every bunker on the course would wash out. It was what made that tournament great was just the fact that you could take all these guys and all these volunteers and you know let the rain stop, go pump out all the bunkers, push all the sand back up, and still play golf. So that was pretty cool to be part of. So learned a lot.
I'll bet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm just wondering what was the backstory on the curse?
Well, they said that Chief Leatherlips was buried somewhere on the property, and so that's why the memorial tournament had rain every year for it. So there was, it's old folk tale. So
It's one of those
we,
things.
but it was
Interesting.
inevitable. I think in the 7 years, we only had one tournament that we didn't actually have rain that washed everything out. During the actual Thursday through Sunday, like I think it was 1 year. So, we had it like the Sunday before or something like that. So it really only affected some practice rounds, but the rest of them were all, you know, you get some rain and you knew what to do. It was just not the easiest thing. I mean, I'm pretty envious of Chad and the ability for him to, you know, get all the infrastructure things that needed to happen when I was there that we just couldn't do. So
Yeah, all the times that place has been under the knife, there have been no remains found. So I think it's just a legend, right? Just a
yeah,
legend.
and even if you did, you just push them to the side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a couple of names here of individuals you worked for, John. Worked with Roni, worked with Mr. Lat with Paul, and some pretty reputable guys in this industry. How important is it to find that mentor as a young individual getting their start in this industry?
I didn't realize it at first, like what Paul would end up, becoming to me as far as like, somebody that I look up to, somebody that, I call on. I don't do call him enough, but at the same time, like, I look back at his influence he's had on me, and the direction that my career has gone, and what I know now because of him. I mean, that's what I'm trying to do for assistants that come out of Crooked Stick, or guys that worked for us, or with us at Muirfield and things like that. I mean, um, the need for a person to be able to kind of lean on, or bounce ideas off of, or tell you you're an idiot, or you need those people. And Paul's definitely that guy that I could call today. I haven't talked to him in probably a month, but at the same time, it's like we never or we talk every day, just because that relationship. I mean, I'm pretty sure I might be the longest to ever work for him as a management staff, or an intern, that type of thing. I mean, he's intense, and he was the type of person that I needed because I'm pretty intense as well. So we worked a lot, but looking back on it, I wouldn't change it. I just glad that I found my wife when I did, and that she's as resilient as she is, because those years at Muirfield, I don't think you work any less hours, that's for sure, or any more hours. I mean, sorry. So,
How's that work with two intense personalities? Was there a lot of clashing?
no, I just think we saw eye to eye. I mean, a lot of it was, um, we collaborated well, and I was a big, as an assistant or somebody that was working under him, I always wanted to try to be ahead of him. you know, um, and then I basically say, my job was to make his life easier. So, I was constantly trying to look for the next piece or look for the next thing to be able to, um, not necessarily one up, but, just know that I always had it taken care of before he would even see it. So that, made me that much more observant, that much better of a manager at the time than, potentially what I would have been otherwise. So,
It was really special having Paul on the show a couple weeks ago, and I know he certainly spoke very highly of you, Jake. So it sounds like you guys are definitely pretty tight. I wanted to ask you through all of this and working for these different men and at these different courses, where do you kind of pinpoint the turning point in your career?
every place that I was at was a different experience that helped shape me. I mean, obviously, working for John was great. Working with Jim was great. But when I got to go work with Paul, when I moved to Muirfield with him, I was the person that understood what he was looking for from the beginning. So that really helped me, to mature and to move forward really quickly because I was the one kind of distributing his vision to the crew, because everybody was new. I mean, Scott Pavalco, I just remember coming into all these guys and, trying to get them to understand, I guess, what the vision was, what the process was, what the expectations are. Because I mean, there's nobody with a higher expectation than Paul, other than maybe me. But he's a busy guy, and he needs somebody to be able to do that. So the fact that he was willing to bring me with him from Oak Hill and and trust that much responsibility and a 20-year-old, 21, 22-year-old kid at the time, I look back at that and basically say I owe a lot to him for having that faith. So
What do you remember most about the first time you got the job at Crooked Stick and now it's your own facility? And what do you remember most about those that first year of taking it on?
uh yeah, I remember it was a lot, but the good thing is Oak Hill wasn't in the best of shape when I showed up as an intern. So I had experienced a lot of that as far as like how do you go from not great to great. Muirfield had some issues, so got to see that and how we went about improving infrastructure and building a team and learning the golf course. So when I came here, I mean, I kind of knew what to expect. I remember walking on the property during the interview process and, kind of said, whoa, do I really want to take this on? Because there was definitely some issues, definitely some grass that was, not as good as what we'd like to be, but, it was a challenge and, I knew I was ready for it, mainly because Paul gave me so much responsibility that, I felt like I was, ready and, when I got here, it was a challenge. I again had to learn staff and the golf course and whatnot, and you know, there were a lot of challenging times. I mean, 2011 was wet in the spring, and then luckily we had kind of gotten the ball rolling on the irrigation system because it seemed like we were fixing a leak every day. Um, so we started that, and then 2012 we had the first BMW here, and by no means were we ready for that. I mean, it was we still had a lot of work to do, but we'd at least replace the irrigation system because 2012 ended up being record, dry in basically May, June, July, August. We didn't have much rain that whole season, so we had an irrigation system that worked, but we just didn't have the ability to have all the adjustments that needed to be made and uh, you know, every head needed to have something done to it just to, make the adjustment perfect. And so that was a challenging year as well. But, the fact that I had experienced all that prior. It did make it, I wouldn't say easy, but you kind of knew what to expect, coming to Crooked Stick at the time. So,
Here we are, 2025, peak season for you. You guys just rebuilt your greens, open June 6th, which is amazing.
mhm.
What does a typical morning look like for you now?
I'm trying to learn the golf or like learn these greens, like water management, things like that. So I've kind of taken a role where I'm trying to get hands-on with the greens. Like I'm hand watering the greens every day, which is great because you get back into, why you fell in love with the business, that hands-on perspective. So uh, I'm on every green every morning, pulling a hose around, using a TDR, just trying to understand what they need. You know, there's just a lot of guesswork right now. You have an idea of what you should do, but the management of these greens is completely different than what our old greens were. The old greens were they were first generation USGA greens, but they didn't drain. So, I basically called them a modified push-up green. And so now we've got it's like a sand profile mix in these, and you know, they take a lot more water. Before we'd be afraid to water our old greens, whereas these, I don't know if you can put enough down, especially with how fresh they are, because we don't have a lot of thatch. We don't have a lot of, organic buildup. So, water's just pouring through them. So it's just a different way to manage turf that I haven't experienced since really Muirfield. And, at Muirfield, I wasn't as hands-on as even what I was right now. So I'm uh, I'm just trying to learn all the nuances of these things, all the how each microclimate affects each green. What the height of cut should be. It's definitely that puzzle that I'm trying to solve, except all the pieces keep moving. So, they with the weather and Mother Nature, all the curveballs that she throws, we're just kind of having to react a little bit. And I'm typically not a reactionary. I'm usually proactive. And right now it's at least somewhat decent out. But the last couple of weeks we've had 97 plus degree heat and high humidities, which is not normal for central Indiana. So it's been a little bit of a challenge. So we're trying to just kind of work through it and make it to the next day and learn what we didn't do right the day before and maybe what we did do right, and um, you know get through this season, and hopefully in the next two we're that much better.
Does learning these new greens involve having a putter in the cart with you and learning all the new slopes and all that stuff too in the mornings?
I roll a ball around, but I don't take the time. I mean, it's one of those where you're trying to spend as much time as you can on each green and move to the next. But that is something that I'm trying to get back into. Both my kids are starting to get into golf, and so going to the range, going playing 9 holes, you know, paying attention a little bit more than what I had in the past. I love golf, but time wasn't always on my side, especially with younger kids and spending as much time as I did at work. I just want to get home, but now that they're starting to take some interest, it means that I better figure out a swing pretty quick. So
Yeah, absolutely. That's good, man. Give you an excuse to get out there and enjoy the game again. That's awesome.
absolutely.
We are back with another Ask the Agronomist segment featuring PhD agronomist Tony Goldsby from the Andersons. Today's question comes in from Tanglefooter. What is the best part of an agronomist's job?
Wow, Adam, another great question. So for me, hands down, I'd say the best part of being an agronomist is getting to work directly with turf managers like Tanglefooter and so many of the other great, people that have submitted questions to us in the past, and truly just getting at the root of trying to understand what it is that they're dealing with day in and day out there on the course. And as we know, every course or sports field has its own unique challenges. We've had some past questions about budgets, which certainly can have a huge impact on trying to manage turf and soil types, labor constraints, and all those different things that you guys deal with on every single day in your jobs. And for me, I just love digging into those different variables and helping to try to find solutions, whether it be products that we create or different cultural management solutions that are going to help you, the superintendents, do your job a little bit easier. And whether it's recommending, the right fertility approach or adjusting any of those things, anytime we can come up with one more tool in their toolbox that's going to be easily available for them, and help save them time or money or improve consistency in their course, that's always going to give them a great deal of confidence to come back to us, look for our products, look for what solutions we provide. And for me, that's absolutely the most rewarding part of the job. And at the end of the day, I always say it's not just about growing grass, right? It's about the people, it's about the relationships, and it's about being a trusted partner in their success. And I think, for me personally and what we do here at the Andersons, it's again trying to really consult, work with our different partners across the industry to, help come up with solutions that are going to, again, create vibrant, wonderful outdoor green spaces that we're all going to be able to share in. And, that's really what wakes me up and I guess gets me fired up at the end of the day for being an agronomist.
Unreal. That's amazing, Tony. Yeah, any agronomist I've talked to love their job, and they talk about, there can be some tough travel sometimes, and there can be some early mornings, but it's a very, very rewarding job. And if it's something that anybody is, working at right now or thinking about getting into, there's a lot of people like Tony you could reach out to and ask questions about, how to get into that type of job, or maybe different companies to go and work for, because we need more people advancing their careers in this industry as more people move up. And, the agronomist is a very, very pivotal and important part of our industry. So thanks a lot for this, Tony. We appreciate everything you do for us. This wraps up another Ask the Agronomist segment featuring Dr. Tony Goldsby from the Andersons.
From increased traffic to scorching heat, summer conditions can put your most valuable turf to the test. The combination of Contact DG18918 and Fulltech LQ See-Through from the Andersons delivers premium nutrition, improves root structure, and strengthens overall stress tolerance. From the ground up, this duo builds strong, resilient turf ready for the challenges of the season. To learn more, visit andersonspro.com/beattheheat.
So Crooked Stick is, obviously well known, Pete Dye golf course. It was, I think one of his first couple courses that he did. Had a home there on property for a very long time. You certainly, I'm assuming, had a lot of interactions with him there in your early days before he passed away. Number one, what's it like kind of being the caretaker of Pete's baby, Pete and Alice's baby? I think Alice was just as instrumental there. What's it like caring for, their pet project? And did you have any fun interactions with the Dyes along the way?
Well, Pete walked the golf course typically backwards every day because he lived on 18. So he'd have 60 his dog, and he'd be screaming at it to come back because it would want to run off and whatnot. But we'd see him every day. We'd stop and talk. He always was telling me I didn't do something right, which was fine. That I respect that, and that's why he was great, is because he always had something that he wanted to improve, and that was definitely his driving force of being at Crooked Stick. Was he never felt like it was done. He always was looking to make another improvement, and that's kind of my same mentality. I'm always looking for the next thing to rebuild or improve our operation, things like that. It was fun to talk to him and kind of understand what he saw and why he thought it was important. Had the opportunity to work on several projects with him, and a lot of times he'd say, that's good enough. And it was like, okay, I guess I'm good. So, but that was the way Pete was at times. So
Muirfield probably prepared you well for that kind of mentality too.
Yeah, the evening or the Sunday afternoon or Monday morning ride-arounds with Mr. Nicholas definitely hardened you up a little bit. So great guy, but he always had something.
So what's it like then, kind of being the caretaker for the Dyes legacy there at Crooked Stick?
Yeah, I mean, when we did the project, we assembled a team that, had everything to do, or at least they all worked together at one point with the dies. Alan McCurrick and Tom Weber of McCurrick Golf, Tom Doak, Eric Iverson from Renaissance Golf. All those guys came together to be able to, really honor and make sure that we respected what the dies did for Crooked Stick. I mean, they basically secured the property, and built it. Pete built it by himself, with his own hands. So, it was, it's a big responsibility to be able to, go out and not um, disgrace what his legacy here, and making sure that we honor him with continuing to have a championship golf course that is a die golf course and not a somebody else's. So no, I mean it's a big responsibility. It's nice. I mean, nice to say that I think we achieved what he would have wanted to do. He's typically a guy that's going to want to do probably more, but I think more is wasn't necessary here. It was more about, just kind of bringing everything together that we think he wanted to do, because he never really told you everything. He'd give you tidbits, and so we tried to use that for, how we went about, with any changes that we made.
So what about the big renovation you guys just did to your greens? How were you guys able to kind of incorporate his vision?
Well, I mean, there was no major routing changes. The whole driving force behind the project was really to update the infrastructure, what's underneath the greens, to make sure that we, you know, have proper drainage, and the mix under there was going to be great for the future and whatnot. And so with that, we didn't make a ton of changes to the greens. We we're able to go out and kind of shape everything out and still have the same amount of undulation, and overall size only changed by maybe 10%. But we were able to capture a few pin positions that maybe were lost over the years for various reasons. But you know what we did was pretty minor, to try to make sure that we didn't change anything that he wouldn't or wanted to see put in place when he originally did it. I think a lot of the areas that were different or changed was because of the fact that top dressing over the years, or various reasons. You just lost portions of the greens that weren't pinnable. So it was good to be able to bring a lot of these things back to probably the way they were, at least similar to the way they were with when he was alive. So he built them. So
Any major surprises or challenges for you during the project?
well, I mean, surprise wise, I mean, they had a lot of the older members had talked a lot about how significant of changes he had made prior to the 91 PGA and things like that. So when we started digging into them, you started to see the layers, and some of them we had to dig out almost 4 feet to be able to get down to what was beyond the original. So there was he definitely made changes to this golf course several times, and were able to at least see what they were, and but we knew why he changed them. I mean, some of them, I don't know if you could put a pin on a few of the greens, it's just as severe as what they appeared from digging into them. And he had changed it because he knew the game of golf had changed a little bit and was scared of speed, and you know things like that. So that was interesting to see throughout. Some were more, some were less. It was 4 feet was definitely the the most, though. We removed all that and had to bring a lot of material back in before we could even start building the green. So pretty cool though.
Nice. I wanted to ask your opinion on something. We've been discussing something on Turf Today lately, and it is totally opinion based. I'm still not even sure if there is a right answer. But in your opinion, what do you think the most important job is on the course in the morning?
The most thankless job is the course setup guy, setting the pins because he'll get the most most amount of ridicule. But I mean, it all starts in the shop, so you have to almost throw out your mechanics first, because if what they put out that morning isn't right, then it can really be significant for the rest of the day, for everybody else, because if it's not sharp or it's not adjusted properly. So I'm going to throw that out there and just say, let's all realize that our mechanics are the lifeblood to what we do, and it affects everything beyond that for the day if it's not right. So.
And you've got a pretty intuitive one over there too. I mean, he just hand build that trailer you guys put together for your drone sprayer?
Yeah, I mean he's amazing. We're happy to have him, that's for sure. It's he's a jack of a lot of trades and master of most. So, I don't want to give him a big head, but at the same time, it all I always say it does, it starts in the shop, and if you don't have a good one, then it makes it a little bit tough. And I'm fortunate to have a really good one. So.
Hey, this is Michael with Standard Golf Company. Standard Golf has been manufacturing top quality golf course tools, equipment, and accessories right here in Iowa for over a century. From hole cutters and bunker rakes to flags, tee markers, flag sticks, and our innovative green activator, we supply the world's top distributors, proudly made here in the USA. Trusted by golf course accessories all over the world, Standard Golf continues to be the superintendent's best friend by providing specs for the golf course that will turn an eye. Standard Golf, where innovation meets excellence. Now let's get you right back to Turf Today.
Along those lines, you like to tinker with some new toys. I just mentioned the drone sprayer, and you guys built an incredible rig. One of the coolest things I've seen at a golf course to tow it around and
Yeah.
recharge on the fly and all that. But what are some of the new tools that really interest you that you think are going to be game changers for the future?
Well, I mean, for the last probably 7 years, we've had like robotic mowers on the course, but they're all RC, so they're remote controlled. They're on tracks, but we got away from doing any kind of fly mowing, got away from doing any kind of push mowing around bunker banks. I mean, our bunkers are pretty severe. Um, so, we started using that track mower, and it's kind of changed the way we do our operation. It used to be like on a Monday morning, half your staff was just involved with, um, you know, going and mowing bunker banks. And, now we don't do that. We mow them in the afternoons when the grass is dry. People think they're cool because there's a guy either sitting or standing next to his cart, and he's just over there with the joystick. So I always say if my guys come in sore, it's because their thumb, there's a blister or something. But it used to be that with your ankles or your legs, or you were just tired by the end of the day. And now we're just really efficient and able to get a lot of things done. So we've done that, and little things that try to help speed us up and have less, I guess, wear and tear on the body. Like we use the e-cutter for our cups, so you're not having to bang on the HIO. It just pull a trigger, and it goes into the ground for you. And so we've invested into equipment that helps us operate more efficiently. So there's just a lot of things, GPS sprayers, like all those type of things that we've definitely embraced, and try to have a smaller staff but highly efficient staff.
So I'm really glad this came up because I don't think we've talked too much about drone spraying on on the golf course on this show. So talk to us
Mhm.
a little bit about that, some of the pros and cons you guys have encountered.
Well, I mean, it's pretty cool to be able to say that we can do it. We've used it sparingly during the grow in, just to be able to not have to walk on greens and things like that. But, a lot of the reason that we got them was just for the native. We've got about 45 to 50 acres of, fine fescue natural rough out here that's grown up and seed headed, and everybody that has that grass knows how much of a pain it is. And, we try to use that to be able to, spot spray or spray full out for weeds and, especially when it's grown up, because obviously the only way to get to it otherwise without leaving a bunch of tracks through it is to go out by hand. And, that's a pain and highly inefficient, and, you'd be out there constantly doing it. So that's just one of the things that we've tried to use it for, to make sure that we're, able to get in and out quickly. So it's been fun to learn. I don't think we've got it mastered yet though. So that's something that this year we're really trying to um, work on a little more in depth.
So Jake, as I go around and talk to a lot of the individuals that, we have friends in common and stuff like that, your name frequently comes up as one of the best agronomists around. What's your agronomic foundation as a superintendent? What are the things that you need to make sure you get right for everything else to fall into place?
Uh, you know, Obviously water management is huge. You know, I think we've got 14 miles of drainage in our fairways right now. Because we were trying to get the course to I always say it's, we try to weatherproof it. So if we get a large rain event, how do we get back to where we were prior to it as quickly as possible? Whether it's, water management side or tree management or, that type of thing, bunker washouts and whatnot. But water management's the key to everything that we do. Obviously, you can put fertilizer down, or you can put all the fungicides down that you want. But if you're either putting too much or too little down, that's gonna hinder um, how well that turf is gonna do, especially in the middle of summer. So, I think for me at least, I I tend to revolve more around the water side and then let everything else fall into place. So it's every agronomist I've ever been around has agreed that, drainage, or, on the flip side, it's just water management. How do you get the excess off when you don't need it, and then how do you put more on when you do? So those are the kind of the building blocks of trying to get crooked stick right. And with us doing the greens, that was kind of the final piece to be able to say, well, now we can at least manage majority of the surfaces out here without any concern of, too little or too much. So
Yeah, we've definitely heard a lot of good things about you, Jake, and I like how Brian likes to always pump people's tires on here. We're going to talk about the other side here, though, of things. The way we go through our career and our jobs, there's a lot of mistakes made. Wondering if you had a big mistake or a lesson you've learned that's really helped you in your career and also personally.
probably made two or three mistakes this morning. So, I'm constantly still learning,
Oh yeah.
how to how to go about life without, screwing it up too bad. But, I mean, mistakes, you're going to make them every day. And I don't know if I can pinpoint one that really stands out, but, there's, um, you know, opportunity to learn from every mistake, and, try not to make the mistake again is probably the key to it. But, I think you have to make a mistake in order to be able to learn from it and then grow from it so that, you're better down the road. So if I'm any good at what I do, it's because I've made a lot of mistakes. So
Do you safeguard your team members from making mistakes, or do you allow them to go out there, make their own decisions, make their own mistakes to learn from them on their own?
I'm getting better at that. I mean, I try to avoid doing any kind of, scheduling and things like that now, and then make sure I give feedback. But I am definitely the guy that I try to try to do the scenario of like, what'd you learn today, or what'd you do wrong today, or how could we have been better? That is like every day. It's they probably get sick of me telling them, hey, you could have done this better. But at the same time, like, I just look back at Paul, and he wasn't shy. Um, John's not shy. Like all these guys, they're good, and they bring the people up around them to be great because of the fact that they are constantly giving you some kind of feedback that allows you to grow into a better manager. So, I kind of take that premise of like, yeah, I'm going to give you a leash, but then I'm going to also try to, give you the feedback so that the next time that same opportunity comes along, that, they maybe go, oh, wait, no, that might not be the best way. Maybe I try it this way and it'll be better. And, when we try to bounce ideas off of each other, I'm definitely a guy that likes to talk things through. Even if I'm just trying to convince myself that it's the right move, and then they can hear where my mindset is or why I came to a conclusion by being able to, you know, kind of look at all the different steps and hopefully come to a conclusion, and then they understand how I got there, and then there's maybe a little bit more buy-in from them at that point. But you know, again, I'm the guy that I've always going to have some kind of input for them, for assistants or whoever, in order to make them better, because I'm only as good as the people around me. So I got to make sure that I make them better as often as I can.
That was sounded like great parenting advice right there too.
Yeah, yeah. Or coach, any coaches out there listening, like
Yeah,
take
it's,
that
it's
in.
probably easier to it's probably easier to coach these guys more than my kids. I mean, hell, the kids listen to, especially the 15-year-old at home. So
Yeah.
So you don't have them out there working with you, or do you ever bring them out on weekends?
uh, eventually he wants to come out, but I basically said, well, wait till you can drive a golf cart and are actually useful, because
Fair
you,
enough.
you you don't want to just give them a rake and say, have at it, because that's the easiest way for people to go, yeah, I don't want to do this every day, and let's give them something that's going to spark their interest. So, if my kids decide to come work with me at 5 a.m. and, wake up and do all this, and then I've succeeded, because, my biggest thing is provide a work ethic, or at least teach them a work ethic that will carry them in life. So right now they're deeply into sports, and that's great. It's what I enjoy to do, or what's what I like to do after work is go, watch them play those sports or take them to a practice, and same thing, give them some feedback what they could do better. So it's I guess never ending cycle.
Would you encourage, discourage, or just kind of let them find their own path? Would you want them to get into this business?
Uh, you know, I'd want them to find their own path. I mean, you know, I'm not the best example for work-life balance.
I
The
thought you were the poster child for work-life balance, no?
Yeah, no, not at all.
No,
I
that's
mean,
Macintosh, isn't it?
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, he was smart. He doesn't have kids, but but no, I mean, if they want to go into it, like obviously, you want them to do what they want to do. My youngest son definitely kind of has that knack. He's mowing the lawn at 12, and he goes, "Wow, I actually like that." And I'm like, "Oh," because that's where I was at. So, we're uh, I would encourage them to explore as many options as possible and find out what they really like. And if that means that they end up on a golf course, then great. Then I can be part of that, and hopefully kind of be like the uh, Paul and Paul Latchaw. I mean, it's that's pretty awesome story. So
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I got a bit of a fun one for you here. If you weren't a superintendent and you took on a different career, what do you think you would do or would have done?
at one time I thought I wanted to be an architect.
Okay.
Um, a golf course architect at that. I had actually in high school kind of wrote Tom Fazio about, potentially meeting him when he was at Sand Ridge, because my house was literally like a mile away, and that was something that I had thought about doing. And he had replied back to John and just kind of said that, hey, this kid's looking to talk to me, and maybe the next time, or something like that. And that was something that I had thought about, because I'd like to, I guess I'd like to be able to see a golf course come to life, especially after building one at such an early age. But then also, even right now, we do construction pretty much every fall, winter, and finish it up in the spring, and that's fun to me. So, to see things kind of come full circle, and have at least the vision to be able to get it there. So.
Did you lend any input then to the team doing the redesign or the construction work during the project?
I am an opinionated person, and I know when to interject and I know when not to. So, funny story
Understood.
about Pete. He when I first got here, he said, he was talking about what he wanted to do, and I decided to open my mouth and say, well, what if we did it this way? And he just stopped me right in my tracks. He goes, when's the last time somebody paid you $1 million to design a golf course? And I said, they haven't. I said, got it. Just kept my mouth shut and listen. So, that was a funny story. You walk away and go, yeah, I'm not doing that again.
It's
So,
funny. I've heard a few people say that about interactions with Pete, where he's kind of dropped that line a couple times.
right.
That's
You know,
fantastic. Didn't you have a funny story with him during, was it the BMW or something, when he was there was someone out walking the golf course after a round at the BMW?
oh yeah, I mean, he'd be out walking and people would be like, hey, you're not supposed to be out here. And he goes, do you know who I am? So
Yeah,
yeah, I
yep, out there
mean,
walking with his dog after the round.
yeah,
Yeah, he's
yeah, it's
allowed,
like,
you're allowed. That's okay.
yeah, I'm not gonna stop him. And then, you get the call on the radio, like, hey, there's this guy out here walking. It's like, he's allowed, he's fine, just let him
Leave him.
go. But his dog's on the green. It's okay, no problem.
It's his greens. It's okay.
Roll it in the morning, it'll be fine.
Right.
That's you've obviously been involved in a lot of tournaments, from the PGA Championship to the Memorial, the BMW, all that. What excites you about that environment of hosting championship events?
It's always been the lead up. The week of the tournament's almost like okay, you can stop and breathe a little bit. And it's definitely about how things come together. Kind of taking a golf course and having this team of guys that go out and just perform at the highest level. And, you know, you get to the point where, okay, your golf course is on TV, and, I'm my own worst critic, but, it is pretty cool to see all that come together, and, see the biggest names in golf, play your golf course, and just know that you had a hand in that, and that, you're basically, you see all the things that your crew um, were able to do. And I don't know, it's just it's pretty cool to see that lead up, and then when it's there, you're like, okay, cool. And then they finish and you're like, oh crap, because everything has to get, torn down. And, the build out on the BMW is huge. So, you know, when they leave, you're just trying to get them to minimize the damage. Because at that point they just want to get out. And so you basically start over, but that's the fun part, just getting into that pinnacle, everything to come together all at the same time. And there are a few times where I would almost say, oh, that came together and I didn't expect it to, but it did. And then you see it on TV and you're like, wow, that's we did that. So
Well, Jake, I wanted to ask you about some of the increased interest that we have in the industry right now. We're starting to see lots of younger folks getting into the industry, going to school. We even have people, getting into it as a second career. What advice would you have for folks finding the industry?
yeah, I mean, I think anybody coming in just needs to find a place that that they can thrive on a on that team and be able to get as much experience as they can. I mean, there's only so much you can learn from the books. You know, if you go to school, you get as much information out of those classes and things that you can. But when it comes down to it, I talk to the guys a lot about there's the science to what we do, but there's also the art. It's kind of knowing when to be able to, do certain things at certain times in order to either counteract, the weather or, whatever challenge you're having that day. And you have to experience that in order to um, truly know. And so, finding the right person that's going to be able to, take you under their wing, mentor you, give you I guess the background or the feedback of why something worked and why something didn't. But find that person or that place that is willing to do that is probably the number one thing. I mean, anybody that's coming into this um, would struggle if they didn't work at a golf course for several years prior to becoming, say, like the top guy. I mean, it's inevitable. It doesn't work, for anybody to come right out of school and expect to be able to just know it all. Hell, I'm learning every day. I've been doing this for 30 plus years. So, we're in an industry where it's ever changing and you're constantly trying to overcome the next challenge. And, to find, I had Paul. Paul was great. Like he gave us the opportunity to learn from a lot, but he was also there to explain why something worked or didn't work. And, we learned a lot from him and are able to go to our own facilities now and succeed. I mean, every one of his guys, they are as good as they are because of him. So
When someone comes in to interview with you for a position, whether it's an assistant, AIT, intern, whatever it may be, what are you looking for out of that person when you first sit down with them?
probably the biggest thing is just a good attitude, an excitement for the profession. You don't have to be the most polished speaker. You don't need to be the most decorated as far as academic accolades or anything like that. You got to love it. And that this isn't a 9 to 5 job. This isn't a job where you can turn it on and off. You've got to be able to um, walk away at the end of the day and say, man, that was great, even if it wasn't great. So, there's days where, the heat and, all that gets to you. But, if you love what you do, and, the best part about this profession is just the fact that, you can turn around and say at the end of the day, like, wow, we did that. Well, we did that. We were able to, keep that golf course alive, or, produce this product that the members are really happy about. Um, so, you get gratification there, but, it's probably the number one thing that I'm looking for is just somebody that wants to be here, wants to be part of that. And, the rest kind of comes along. Attitude and work ethic is always two things that, we talk about as far as what we're trying to find, or those are the hard ones to teach, is a good attitude and a strong work ethic. So if you can find that, the rest can be taught.
No, that's great advice. I know there's a lot of excitement coming into the industry, and there's so many different jobs and a lot going on and things like that. And you're right, it does take time. You can't just show up and do it all in a day. I think one of the greatest things I've ever learned on the golf course is just having patience. You can't just Rome wasn't built in a day. You can't just do everything you want to do on the golf course in a day. So that patience is huge. I mean, there are things you do to kind of teach that to the kids, or to teach that to younger people, or kind of hone that skill.
Yeah, I mean, patience is not something that I have a lot of. Anybody will tell you that I'm usually the guy that's hard charging and everybody better fall in behind or I'm not real happy. But at the same time, the crazy thing about a lot of what we're doing, especially right now because of new greens, is, you might not see the result of what you did for a week, whether it's good or bad. So, that's a hard thing to I guess instill in a Amazon and things like that, where we can get things delivered in 2 days and it's instant gratification. We're talking about an industry where, the only thing that happens quickly in turf is death. So, all the other things that we do, it has to be slow. We have to be able to, take the slow road on how to get, grass to be at its peak or at its healthiest. Because if we apply too much or too little, or, water too much or too little, your results don't always show up overnight or even the next day. So that is, trying to make people understand that, like, hey, this is what we should see, but we got to be patient enough to see it. And then once it happens, or whether it's there, we have to recognize it. And I always talk to my assistants about, like, if you don't see it, you can't fix it. So you need to be the guy that is out there, making notes, or, seeing what your problems are and then coming up with solutions. I mean, we're problem solvers. A lot of what we do is just trying to get to the point where, we've mitigated as many risks as possible. Just knowing that we don't know what the next one is. So, whether it's a fungicide application or, fertility application, like right now I'm looking at, we got rain all next week. So we went out with preventative spray ahead of the fact to make sure that that doesn't come back to bite us. Because we do have new turf, and it's not as, the defense mechanisms aren't as well put in place as some of the more mature turf. So, trying to look at things not only today, but then next week, what are we going to have? 2 weeks from now, what are we going to have? And trying to make sure that we're proactive enough to be able to get there and be patient enough to see it. So,
Well, this has been awesome, Jake. I know we're running up on an hour here, and I know your time is extremely precious and valuable. So it's your episode. Before we let you go, is there anything you want to talk about?
hey, I'm just humbled to be on it. I look back at the list of all the guys that you've had on here, and it's a pretty cool list, and to be part of that is very cool. Keep doing what you're doing. You guys are awesome. This is exactly what this profession needs. So much appreciated.
No, we appreciate you coming on, and personally, I appreciate you letting me be a small part of the project last year. It was a lot of fun to get over there and see all the transformation that happened over there. The golf course has turned out amazing. So you guys,
Appreciate it.
you and the team should be extremely proud of what you accomplished.
We'll have to get you over to play. So Adam, you can come too.
That'd be awesome.
I
Yeah.
didn't even realize it was an hour, so I appreciate it.
That's a
That's the
good
best
thing.
when you don't know
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
for
beautiful.
sure.
You did
Well,
great.
thanks
You
so
did great.
much. I really,
Awesome,
really
Jake.
appreciate it. So
Absolutely.
have a great day.
Good stuff, man. All right, well, we'll touch base soon.
Sounds good. We'll see you.
Take care.
All right,
Enjoy the
take care,
weekend.
Jake.
Happy 4th of July.
Sounds good. Appreciate it.
We'll see you.
Oh, dude, that was awesome.
Yeah, great interview.
That was awesome. A little bit of a slow
great
start.
guest.
He was a little nervous at the beginning. And I didn't read
Cool.
the show notes either. So I'm asking him about what tournaments he's got coming up. And it's like, dude, we just did our greens.
Yeah.
We're getting everything ready for play, not a tournament.
Yeah, no, I was trying to
Oh,
find
yeah.
the show note. I think I blacked out there for a second because I was trying to pull up his questionnaire. I mean, I couldn't find it, but I'm very fortunate to have spent a lot of time with him, so I have an idea what's going on over there. And yeah, I mean, they had a great project. It was really neat. I helped the club kind of document the whole project. Yeah, it was phenomenal. They did a wonderful job, and wasn't wholesale changes or anything like that. Just some minor tweaks with the emphasis on the infrastructure. And I know, I had the opportunity to interview Tom Doak as part of the project, and it was really neat to hear his perspective on Crooked Stick, because it's Pete's baby. He constantly tinkered with it. His comment was Pete would travel somewhere and see different bunker styles, whether it's from Donald Ross or Alistair McKenzie or stuff that was overseas, and then he'd come back and he'd try and implement it on Crooked Stick. And so Crooked Stick eventually evolved into this golf course with all sorts of inspiration. There are some Pete Dye holes, there are some McKenzie bunkers, there are some Ross bunkers, and all this. And so listening to Tom Doak talk about that was just totally fascinating for a golf geek like me. And then being able to see it, and then okay, so we're making this hole so it's all McKenzie style bunkers. We're making this hole so it's all Pete Dye's original style bunkers. This hole's all Tillinghast style bunkers, whatever it may be. It was really cool to be a part of it and just see how it all came about at the end of the day and how it all came together. It's really a really great piece of property, great golf course. And again, Jake and his team did a bang up job of getting that place wrapped up and put to bed. And it's I was joking with Jake at the end of the project last year. I'm like, dude, we got to stop doing these videos because the members are going to see it and they're going to think it's ready to play. Like the grow-in was that good. I'm like, this looks amazing. I'm ready to bring my clubs here in October. It's ready.
That's so cool. That's so cool.
It
I guess
was
it's like a classic car. If you're gonna restore a classic car, you're not gonna be able to put an old school engine in it. So you're gonna do everything you can to keep it, as vintage as possible. But you're probably gonna need a new engine. So changing the profile and the infrastructure of the greens is a great idea, but not needing to make too many changes to the actual design itself. I like that.
Yeah, it's a great analogy. Great analogy. And of course, tune up the radio, right? You can't have
Well, yeah,
can't
new
be
sound
cruising around
system.
town
Yeah.
with an 8-track or something. So
Yeah, exactly.
you don't even know what that
Oh, man.
is, probably. So
No, you guys, I got the BlackBerry one, but no, you got me there.
You're probably too young to remember cassette tapes and cars and
I
everything.
remember seeing them. I remember my first car I bought had a cassette player, but I wouldn't
Did
have had any tapes to put in it,
Yeah. That was when CDs started to become popular. That was the thing. We'd have the cassette player in the car, and then they made the adapter that you could plug in and play CDs, from this adapter straight to your
Okay.
Discman. Oh man, good times back in the day. Good
Yeah,
times.
just making it all work with all the wires and all the connections.
Oh man, there was so many wires going here, there, and everywhere. Yeah.
Oh,
Like
that's
then
good.
where do you put your disc man? Because anytime you go over a bump, your disc man's gonna skip.
Oh yeah, the skip.
Yeah. That was
The problems we used to have.
first world problems. That was crazy.
Yeah.
It was
Oh
crazy.
yeah. The jog proof Discman. I remember getting that one year. That was big. Had a little like hand holder on the back so you could run with it on your hand.
Oh,
Goodness.
you
The good
got
old
it.
days. Yeah, now
Yes,
everything
sir.
is just way too quick. I actually liked how he was talking about that having patience, learning patience in your job.
Yeah.
That's got to be impossible for some people now because everybody's so used to having everything done so quickly. Everything's on their phone, it's
Yeah.
automatic. But yeah, you're growing grass. Like you're gonna need some patience.
Yeah. Especially when you're going through a big renovation or something like that, where you're, introducing new plants, redoing fairways, greens, whatever it may be, and it takes time for those things to grow in. It's tough to tell yourself just to be patient and trust the process. So, yeah, definitely, and especially guys like that are just incredibly intense, right? And they demanding. It's tough to tell yourself just take a step back and let it do its thing.
hmm That can be tough, but like we were saying, if you can learn that patience on the course, that's going to help you in everything you do because everything else is
Yeah.
so much faster.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, we got to
Yep.
shout out Clemson Turf Grass, the Turf Grass Club, sending us the hats. Appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Appreciate
Had
the
a
lids,
f-
guys.
Yeah, we've had a few people send us hats over the years, but it's certainly something that we appreciate. And if you want to get your company or your turf grass, what am I trying to say? Your school
Turf
or
club.
your turf
Yeah.
club or whatever out there, we're more than happy to wear the hats, and we'll give them away to some of our friends or some of our family or whatever.
Yeah.
I have too many hats, so I'm not
I was
allowed
gonna
to
say
keep
we
any new
appreciate
ones.
the swag. The wives do not appreciate the swag. So
Yeah,
stickers are always, they're always good just because
stickers
we
are
can put
great
them on the
too.
fridge or
Yeah,
a little sticker wall, something like that back there behind me. It's that's what I'm starting to do. I'm gonna add another little sticker thing under the Muirfield sign here
that's a good
eventually.
idea. Yeah,
Yeah, it'll
start getting more on
keep
there.
loading up. Yeah.
Starting to be a lot more, turf companies and turf brands and turf companies making clothing and merchandise and stuff. So we're starting to see a lot more of that kind of spilling into our industry, which is
Yeah,
great. It's great. We're
absolutely.
getting our own identification, our own kind of culture built, and this is something we've always talked about. We want to kind of have that camaraderie and that culture and that light shown on how fun this industry is. So the more people creating pages and logos and names and merchandise. Keep it up. It's awesome.
Yeah. I love that little subtle plug to get some new swag.
Well, always looking. Although, yeah, no, my wife doesn't like it. Another new hat. Oh, I didn't pay for it. Yeah, but like, where are we putting this?
Dude,
Oh
every
man.
year I toss out at least 50 hats. At
Yeah.
least, just churn them over.
Yeah. I think I need to box up a bunch, just bring them to the shop one day and
Ah,
just be like, here you go,
yeah.
guys. Bunch of turf
Yeah.
hats. Have fun.
Yeah. I keep saying that the Goodwill store by my house has got some of the best golf apparel you'll ever find anywhere. So if you're ever looking for golf attire, come to the Palo Ohio Goodwill store and you're down to find some top 100 polos and hats and tournament polos and hats. I've only got so much room in the closet.
Yeah, exactly. You can only hang on to so there's only so many days in a year too. Like
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
and then you
So
can't go
I
to a golf course without buying something new. So there's always
no.
stuff coming in.
Well, that's it. I always feel bad like discarding something, but it's like, okay, this tournament was 2 years ago. I have 7 polos from that tournament. I can probably spare getting rid of 6 of them and keep one of them.
Yeah.
So, because it is, I mean, I'm always appreciative of the swag and the gear that people give us when we go out and about. And I do my part. I keep it for at least a year, wear it for a year, and then, it gets replenished the more events and places and stuff you go to. It's like you just got to turn it over. You got to turn it over every now and then.
It happens.
Yep.
I was gonna text you this today, but I figured I'd tell you. I got a message from somebody saying that they're listening to the Paul B episode the other day, and they were telling us that it's on their bucket list to visit the Elbow Room. I thought that was
Oh, I
hilarious.
love it. I love it. I love it. Hopefully they're not
Just
disappointed.
oh, you can't be. You can't be.
No.
I mean, you can certainly build it up, but I think there's enough
Yeah.
video out there. And if you even want to check it out, just Google Elbow Room, go to their website. They have a live stream of what's happening at the bar, I think
Yeah.
24/7. So,
Yeah, they do. They do. Didn't I? I think I was down there and I sent you a
yeah,
text
we
like,
were
"Hey, turn
watching you
on."
guys sit at the bar.
Or no, I told you I was there. I sent you a picture and then
And then
you
I
took a
found it.
screenshot from their website. Like, I see you.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Lauren and I were just talking about we've got a weekend coming up where we don't have any kids and just, again, it's very fortunate to be on the road and all that kind of stuff. And then very fortunate that we every now and then get an opportunity to disappear for a couple days and go do something. So I think I'm going to throw that out there is that we just go to Fort Lauderdale for 2 days, hang out at the Elbow Room for a weekend and just forget about everything else. I think that might be the suggestion.
It's not bad. It's direct flight.
Yeah,
The
it's
beach is
easy to
right
get
there.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's easy to get to. We'll fly into Miami, drive up to Fort Lauderdale.
Rent a Cybertruck because they're everywhere down there.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Probably, I don't know if I would rent a car. I don't know. It's almost cheaper to rent a car than to Uber up to Fort Lauderdale from Miami. And I fly into even though there's the airport there in Fort Lauderdale, I've got all the American points. It's easy
You're
just
an
to use
American guy.
those.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'd fly into Miami, direct flight, drive the 45 minutes north. Yeah,
You guys could
I don't
just
know.
sleep on the beach. Just take the Uber right to the Elbow Room.
Could totally could. I mean, I can easily do that because I could just make a do with wearing the swimsuit and the t-shirt for the whole weekend. So, wife may have other plans. She
Yeah.
probably would need to bring all the gear with her, but
I'm sure you guys could find something else to mix the weekend up.
yeah, we'll figure something out. Figure something out.
Enjoy the weekend. A Friday, 4th of July is amazing.
Yeah. Yep.
That's the day.
Signing off right after this, packing up and heading to the lake house. So,
Beautiful.
ready to
Beautiful.
roll.
Well,
Ready
say
to
hi to
roll.
everybody for me. Hopefully, you guys have a
Will
good
do.
weekend, and we'll get
Yeah.
back on it next week.
Sounds great, man.
Everybody, take
All
care.
right. Yeah, have a good one. See
All
ya.
right. Thank you to everybody who joined us today. It was awesome to have Jake Gargasz on. We really appreciate him lending us a little bit of time. We want to thank our sponsors because we couldn't do the show without them. Toro, Anderson, Standard Golf, USGA, Apex 10, Flash Weather AI, and all of the other people out there right now helping us with what we got going on here. Couldn't do it alone, and we certainly could not do it without you, the listener. We appreciate everything that you guys do on your end. This community is amazing. We love it. Check out turftodayshop.com. We got a lot of great stuff on there. If you want to rock the logo and some merch, we got another really good one for you guys next week. So keep those reels sharp.
I can't see the issue. Yeah, believe me, I need to keep myself in line. But I don't need to kiss you. Hey, we can make it tonight, baby, that's just fine. Don't know what I'm doing, feel like I am going crazy. Keep it down. You look good, you know it. I can tell you're soaking up all of it now. Hey, hey, listen to what I say. Let's get to it and we won't tell nobody. Yeah, we won't tell nobody. Hey, hey, listen to what I say. Let's get to it and we won't tell nobody. Yeah, we won't tell nobody. I can't fight this feeling when you give me those eyes. Yeah, baby, you control me, and I need to find your loving, baby. Baby, you own my mind, and I'll give you my body. Don't know what I'm doing, feel like I am going crazy. Keep it down, keep it down. You look good, you know it. I can tell you're soaking up all of it now. Hey, 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 listen to what I say. Let's get to it and we won't tell nobody. Yeah, we won't tell nobody. Hey, hey, listen to what I say. Let's get to it and we won't tell nobody. Yeah, we won't tell nobody. Listen to what I say. We won't tell nobody. Yeah, we won't tell nobody. Hey, hey, listen to what I say. Let's get to it and we won't tell nobody. Yeah, we won't tell nobody. Hey, listen to what I say. Let's get to it and we won't tell nobody. Yeah,